The special agent in charge, former head of the criminal division of the FBI, Christopher Schwecker, claims that there were whistleblowers screaming from the rooftops, but nobody was listening. One more time. Schwecker, the head of the criminal division of the FBI, special agent in charge, worked for quite a while out of the Houston FBI office in Harris County. He tells the whole world that there were lots of whistleblowers screaming from the rooftops, but the Department of Justice and the FBI, they weren't listening. In other words, they were ignoring the whistleblowers. Just like in the Epstein victims matters, they were ignoring the Epstein victims. Same with the Colony Ridges down there in Harris County, Houston, Texas. They were ignoring the people swindled, and then they went on with this Trump Justice Department and this Kenny Boy Paxton, and they're trying to settle the case where the victims don't get even a penny. The victims don't get nothing. They steal tens of millions, maybe a couple $100 million from the people they scammed and swindled, and they get no refunds, no restitution. In other words, they're just ignoring the victims at Colony Ridges. Ain't that fascinating? And then there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other illegal land developments all over Texas, and they ignored all those people too. Yeah, they did. And they didn't get any of those people any refunds or restitution or damages or nothing. They just got to rob people for huge amounts of money, and they kept it. And the FBI just did nothing. Department of Justice didn't do diddly squat. Diddly squat. Did not do diddly squat. So again, the whistleblowers were screaming from the rooftops, and according to the head of the criminal division of the FBI, special agent in charge, Chris Schwecker, they were ignored. Yeah, that's what his public statements are. I've got his public statements. Got the transcript, published the video. I think there's a lot more explaining. I think there's a lot more splaining. They got some splaining to do over there at the FBI Department of Justice. Yeah, hundreds of millions, hundreds of billions, even trillions were stolen out of the system during the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, leading up to the continuing saga of the financial crash in 2006, 7, and 8. It wasn't the great financial crisis of 2008. It was 2005, 6, 7, and 8. And it started long before that, Patrick Lovell. Yeah. The con, the new untouchables. It started long, long, long before the great financial crash of 2008. It was going on all through the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And there were whistleblowers raising ever-loving hell from the rooftops, from the rooftops. And Justice Department and the FBI just ignored them. Nobody was listening, according to the head of the criminal section of the FBI, special agent in charge, old Christopher Schwecker. That's a pretty big admission there, Chris Schwecker. Well, I think there's a few federal courts and federal court juries. There's some juries that need to consider these facts. So I'm going to ask Chris Schwecker to sign an affidavit that what he said on the Patrick Lovell here, the con, the new untouchables, what he was talking about there today, that, he said what he said. You can't unsay it, Chris Schwecker. You already said what you said. And I know you said in there a couple times, you got to watch what you say. Well, I watched what you said. Whistleblowers on the rooftops raising ever-loving hell, and the Department of Justice and the FBI and FinCEN and HUD and USDA and Treasury. Nobody was listening. Not the Congress, not the Senate, not the executive offices of the president. Nobody was listening. In other words, cover up, whitewash, and screw the victims, and to hell with the whistleblowers. That's how the system works, according to the former head of the criminal section of the FBI, Christopher Schwecker, and all them people on that video, Professor Black, and I guess his name is Mark Law, and June Carbone, and all the other people on that video, including Patrick Lovell, are all witness to what Schwecker said. There was whistleblowers on the rooftop raising ever-loving freaking hell, and me, this guy right here was being ignored. Fascinating statement, Chris Schwecker. We're going to make a big deal out of this one. Have a nice evening, everybody, and remember one thing. If it smells like shit and it looks like shit and it sticks to the bottom of your shoe like shit, it's probably shit.